Hello, I am Jessica Ferguson, and I will be doing a webinar here with you today that discusses the 5 important components of language known as linguistics. First, I want to start by mentioning that literacy development begins during a child's first year of life, and it's the process in which a child learns words, sounds, and language by being exposed to books and by having conversations, even if it's just the other person facilitating it. For example, when you're with a newborn baby or a young child and they're babbling to you, you can say things like, "Oh, you're telling me stories," and just keep talking to them and facilitating, making that eye contact, and just giving that give and take of language. Infants will begin to copy, mirror sounds to manipulate language. The ability is called phonological awareness. Each aspect of literacy is a stepping stone to the next level. Each level of literacy develops and will help build a strong foundation for a child with the goal that they will be a comprehensive future listener, a reader, a writer, and a fluent communicator who is able to hear those changes in language. These skills don't just naturally occur, so they need to be intentionally taught and practiced. Phonology is our first component. According to professional development expert Catherine Stark, phonology is the awareness of sound structures in language. Phonology focuses on being able to hear, recognize, and distinguish sounds in words. I am a preschool teacher in a universal preschool setting, and my class really enjoys the rhyming aspect of phonology. Phonology is interesting because people really have to listen to words and understand how they change based on certain situations or the varying placements of syllables in words and sentences. For example, listen to the variation of the S sound in the word cats versus dogs. Cats has the prominent S sound, while dogs has more of a Z sound. In order to notice the difference, you need to be listening to the spoken language, because on paper it looks like it would be the typical S sound, but when spoken, the sound varies. Morphology is the study of word forms and how words are put together. When I hear morphology, I automatically think of a caterpillar morphing into a butterfly. This is because of the root word morph, which means to change from one thing to the next smoothly. In speech, we use morphology to change words by putting two concepts together to make one cohesive word or sentence. For example, if you go to the grocery store and a bag of carrots is on your grocery list, you have a choice to get 1 carrot, singular, or multiple carrots, plural. The addition of the S to the word carrot is an example of how there are more than one. Syntax is how words are arranged to create a sentence that makes sense. Our language, spoken descriptions, and writing needs to follow a specific order so that our language specifically sentences make sense. Order is key to writing a successful sentence so others can comprehend it. For example, if I were to say bears hibernate in caves during the cold winter months, but I wrote caves hibernate in months during cold winter bears, that sentence doesn't make sense due to the order of the words. So teaching the sequential order and its importance can really benefit our students' syntax awareness and abilities. What is semantics? According to Kit Kittleston from dictionary.com, semantics involves the deconstruction of words, signals, and sentence structure. It influences our reading comprehension as well as our comprehension of others' words in everyday conversations. Semantics plays a large part in our daily communication, understanding, and language learning without us even realizing it. Semantics is the study of the relationship between words and how we draw meaning from those words. People can absolutely interpret words differently and draw different meanings from them. For example, if someone says, "I have dishes to do," they may feel that they need to get them done as soon as possible. Whereas if another person hears that, they may not feel that it's a priority and that they can get around to doing it once they have a chance. It's all based on the perspective of the people involved. Pragmatic language. our last component, is the use of appropriate communication in social situations. Examples of this could include knowing what to say and how to say it, and when to say it. Pragmatics is a field of linguistics concerned with what a speaker implies and a listener means based on contributing factors like the situational context. Pragmatics has to do with a person's perspective, also a person's mental state, that plays a role in pragmatics. It's important to understand these components of linguistics related to our students with exceptionalities because we can only teach to our best abilities when we understand the information being taught. We must be able to simplify and modify these components in a way that fits our students' learning abilities. It may look different for each child, and that is okay. Teaching these components with multisensory approaches can help meet students' varying needs, especially their learning needs, and keep them engaged, causing for our students with exceptionalities to be more active participants in the important subject of linguistics. Lastly, I'm going to provide 3 developmentally appropriate strategies to support the language and literacy development of early childhood students who struggle with linguistic components. My first one is language thrives when children have opportunities to interact with each other and explore in a playful and creative manner. Children learn to communicate through everyday interactions with children and adults, and they have a connection with by sharing experiences together. Providing processing time for a child is so important. According to Claire Smith, research shows you might need to wait for as long as 10 seconds before you get a response. Learning to talk is a complex process, and when children are still learning it, it can take a bit longer for them to process what you've just said. So it's important to give them a chance rather than just jumping in and answering for them or prompting them with like the first sound of the letter. Just give them that 10 seconds to process it, and if they need help, then you can give them a choice of 2 or just gauge where they are in that moment to help them work through that. Being at a child's level is very important. This might mean being physically face-to-face at their level, but also cognitively. Using language at the right developmental level and keeping the interaction at the child's pace will really help to keep the conversation going. You may need to simplify your language to be at the child's level, or one step higher if the child is speaking in 3 or 4 word sentences. Try to speak in a sentence of around 3 to 5 words yourself. Repeat, repeat, repeat. Words, songs, stories, there's no such thing as too much repetition for children. Repetition is great for language learning. Children need to hear new words lots of times in many different situations for them to be securely stored in their word bank. Thank you for joining me for my linguistics webinar, and I hope you learned something new.